Hello and welcome to another episode of Seddon and Lacey's Comic Stash. As we are going to have I say deep dive because we can't have too much of a deep dive because if Muggins here has read all of it, will start spoiling things.
Not quite all of it, but a lot of it, yeah. Yeah, I'll be
We are
tiptoeing around what I say to make sure I don't do anything really foolish. Like, oh, and when the aliens come down, da, 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 da.
we are doing Something is Killing the Children.
And it's volume one, isn't it? Which
Yes,
is issues 1 to 5.
yes. Which I
Beautiful title as well.
yes,
One of my favourite titles of a story stroke comic book ever.
which is one of those ones you did keep going on about and go, you need to read this, you need to read this, and because I
Oh,
had some Bono money.
some Amazon space box.
Yes, had some Amazon space bucks, so I picked it up when I was picking up some other bits and pieces. So
Well, it was a series that I just heard loads about, as in whenever you were kind of reading any sort of comic book pages, there'd generally be someone going, "Oh, this is brilliant, that's brilliant," like, and reading about its kind of success in the indie sphere, being nominated for awards. So it kind of been on my list to kind of get to, but it was actually reading other James Tinian the Fourth stuff, and then falling in love with that and going, right. So people say this is good. I really like him as a writer. Be an idiot not to jump onto this now, wouldn't I? So yeah,
yes.
so
So before we dive into children's
killing,
death,
matter.
should we go in our corners?
Our reading corners.
Exactly. Cue the
Hit
music.
that music.
Happiness is just around the corner.
Probably longer than the music, but get to this dance. So what have you been reading?
So today, because I
Sure,
noticed
been
they'd
reading.
gone up onto the DC manga crossover have just gone live.
Yeah, I saw they went on there. I didn't get time today to read them, but yeah, I'm really interested to see how you found them, and to be honest, what reading a manga was like on the app.
Yes. So first things first, it does go on the app. It goes full manga, and you have to scroll the other way.
Wowzers! Yes, I'm in.
So,
I'm in.
it you scroll left to right instead of right to left, and it's just like ooh, I like this. So there's three that are up, and I did smash all three of them because they're not that big. The biggest one is the Batman one, which is like 40 something pages.
Yeah,
A Joker one's 20 pages, and the Superman one's only like 25, 30 pages.
and I'm presuming sort of page wise, less panels because I tend to find mangas have less
Yes.
panels than most sort of American comic books.
Yeah, some of them. In the Batman one, there is about 6 pages where there's no words, but it's just an action scene. But each page is split into 3 panels, so
Yeah.
you know that takes up quite a bit of the page count for that. So I will run through them individually quickly. So the first one,
Run, Forest, run.
first one is Superman versus Mishi. Um, this was a weird one. This is something that I will say about two of the three. Are they are weird.
Okay.
Superman is being Superman, doing Superman things. Goes back to being Clark Kent. Is told that he has his hour lunch and needs to find a story. Turns back into Superman to fly from Metropolis to Tokyo to eat yakitori,
I
and
mean,
that is our story. Is how
if
he
if you're
has to
hungry
have
and
his lunch.
you can go around the world that quickly, you're gonna get whatever food you want, aren't you?
Yeah,
Soups don't have to use Just Eat, does he?
no, it is very Japanese. It is that sort of very kooky Japanese thing. But it seems really weird to have a Western hero in that style. Um,
Well, I've never read sort of any of these, but I know that there is quite a sort of chunky food manga. Well, I mean, I guess it's a everything manga genre, really, isn't there? But
yeah,
I don't know if you're a real foodie and you like superheroes. But yeah, I guess I don't really kind of get it. I don't really necessarily understand what I would get out of that, other than maybe if it's funny or it just struck me funny at the right time. But yeah, concept wise, doesn't really sound like it's up my alley. But I'll give it a go.
yeah. The next one is the Joker one.
Is it
Um,
One Operation Joker? Is that what it's
yes,
called? Or yeah, okay.
and basically Joker is looking after a baby. We find out that the baby is Batman
Baby
because they were having a
bats.
fight, and Batman goes into the vat of acid and turns into a baby, and Joker has to be his dad. Again, weird concept, but
I guess that one brings with it
okay.
that sort of ton of fish out of water comedy. Joker as a dad, Batman as the baby. Yeah, conceptually, I can kind of get behind that a bit more, even though it's obviously massively bizarre. But yeah, I kind
Yeah,
of get that a little bit more.
yeah. Because obviously only being 20 pages, it doesn't really do a lot or go anywhere. It just sort of sets up the premise. Um, I will be if there are some more of them. Say, are all chapter ones or volume ones. That
Yeah.
I'm tempted on that one maybe to give the second one a go to see
Well, the
what
second
it
one's got
does.
Harley Quinn on the cover, so there's no way you're not getting having a go at the second one. So I know how you're a slave to that.
But yeah, it's one of those. I'll give that a look, but that might be where I sort of go
Tap
no.
outs.
Yeah. And then the last one is Batman Justice Buster. The
I mean,
longest of
it's
them
a
all.
it's a cool name, isn't it?
It is. Batman is fighting Firefly. His equipment stops working during the fight. He goes back to the Batcave and has a go at Robin. But Robin is a computer AI system.
I mean, you started my Twitch when you said Firefly, and I started to think about Nightfall, Night's Quest, Nights.
Yes. Um, this one, I was like, it wasn't overly pretty. Whereas the Superman one with his food had that kooky manga styling.
Yeah,
The Joker one also was quite sort of kooky manga, and Joker was sort of partially more Joaquin Phoenix Joker than normal Joker that we get
yeah.
regularly. So I was like, "Oh, interesting thing on it." This, not a massive fan of how they draw the bats, and everything was everything was very sort of bland looking. It didn't look like anyone was trying to do something different with it. It just looked like we've taken a manga and just put a bat the hell the cape and cowl on them.
Well, I'm just having a
Um,
look here, and the artist and writer artist does a lot of like Ultraman stuff. So I guess probably known for that kind of
mm,
robotic style, which is something that I think is probably when I was a kid what the primary manga and anime stuff you would see that would make it over to here would be your robots, your Evangelion and things like that. And I wonder whether potentially that was the idea was
mm.
take someone with that more mechanical sci-fi thing and swing that into the Bat world.
But yeah, this one I won't go for anymore. I'm not. I didn't feel this, but as I said the Joker one, I would. The Superman one, I probably would give a second one a go, just because to see if they're doing something else with that, or if this is just going to be a weird Superman does
Yeah.
food porn thing, or if that was just a here's Superman going to eat yakitori just because we want
And,
something that fits
and then
that
something, yeah.
market,
And then
and then
whatever
go
happens next happens, yeah.
yeah. Whereas this Batman one didn't grab me.
Well, I mean, I didn't know because the Superman one was it say it's Superman versus Meshy, isn't it? And I've no
Yeah,
idea who or what Meshy is, or whether that's just a dish that he's eating. I don't know, but yeah, I guess it has some inherent intrigue of going. I've no
mm.
idea what that is, so maybe that will keep me coming back for more. But it certainly doesn't sound like a slam dunk to you. It doesn't sound like you went, well, that's it. I found my new way for life. It's DC manga.
Yeah. As I said, we were both intrigued with it when we heard about it. What
Yeah,
6 months ago? When they
yeah.
announced that they were going to do these and they were coming on DCU. But yeah, as I said, one is intriguing because of its weird Japaneseness. The other one's intriguing because I'm like, what are you doing with this? And the other one's just dull.
Well, having a quick look and a bit cheaty and a bit spoilery, but looking at the cover for the second Superman one, you'll go into that as well because it's got Batman on the cover.
Oh, it's like they know what I need to.
Batman and Batman is riding on the back of Superman, feeding him food. So
Oh,
sexy.
it's going to be food porn, isn't it? It's going to be more food porn, but
Yeah,
without
I
his
mean,
back.
like the sort of the little screed for Volume 2 is Superman's culinary tour through Japan continues. So yes, I guess every issue is going to be focusing on some food of some sort, but probably building up a degree of story around it. It says that he loves bringing his Justice League pals out to show them the wondrous world of Japanese chain restaurants. He'll even relax with a bite after a harrowing battle with Lex Luthor. But can the man still overcoming his biggest fear and ask intrepid reporter Lois Lane out to lunch? Question mark.
Hmm.
It's got Batman on the cover.
It's got Batman on the cover. I might,
Yeah,
but if it's going to just be Superman does man versus
food.
food.
I quite like the I mean I've just seen the covers. I quite like the art on the Superman one, and it is actually the same artist as the Joker one, but I think just from the couple of images I saw, the Superman one struck me more as
Mm,
that's a nice looking rendition of Superman, and I thought that the
yeah.
rendition of Batman was quite nice as well. So
So yes, you may hear more about them next month when they go on Ultra.
and when you are going on your Japanese food porn tour,
See, now I'd quite like to do that, but that's a
there
completely
you go.
different video, and I don't need comic books for
But
it.
yeah, but we could go to Japan, eat Japanese food, talk about it, and read mangas while we're over there. Although my understanding is that a lot of the Japanese dishes you get in Japanese restaurants will have a lot of fish in it, and I don't eat fish because I'm a vegetarian, but primarily because fish is gross, man. Like
Yeah,
there's no good
I
fish.
don't
Yeah.
do fish, but they'll probably do it in chicken and pork too. It's fine.
The thing is, you've got to figure out how to order the chicken and pork one. And I guess Google Translate helps everything these
Yeah,
days, doesn't it? I mean, yeah, like rewind 20 years ago, I think if you and I went to Japan, we'd be useless. Whereas now
just
we could
pointing at thing
probably,
and going
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, going fish, no fish, no fish. Yeah.
So, what have you been up to in your corner?
Well, following on from last week, and I think it was last week, where I picked up on something that we'd had as one of our highlighted issues in the solicits. I've kind of gone and blooming done the same thing again this week. I read the first issue of Planet of the Apes, which I was quite excitable about when we saw it in the Marvel solicits. I know you've read bits and bobs, and I've read a teensy bit of the Marvel Alien run, and of course they've got Predator now, and we're both quite fans of what Marvel have done with Star Wars as a franchise. So when I heard that they were touching in the world of Planet of the Apes, licensed stuff isn't always my bag, but I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. And I'm pleased to say I thoroughly enjoyed issue one. Now, I'm not going to say it was a absolute blockbuster. I'm not going to say this will change your world or this does things in the universe of Planet of Apes that have never been done before. But it does pick up on, well, I'm going to say like the recent movies. But I
Mm.
guess technically the recent movies can interlock with other Planet of the Apes movies that aren't the abomination that is the Tim Burton one. So you get like the first few, it's probably 4 or 5 pages, getting you caught up with those that haven't read the, haven't seen the movies, where we are. So a virus is unleashed, and it's unleashed because they were experimenting on apes. Damn you humans for experimenting on these great animals. And simian flu becomes a thing, and then of course human beings are starting to die from it. And let's go with apes rather than simians at this point, as it's the title of it. The apes aren't dying, and you get these sort of cultural standpoints and cults that are massively anti-apes because apes started the flu, and it does lean very heavily into what we've seen in the modern world, modern media
Mm.
of who and what can we blame that isn't us.
Yep.
So let's sort of blame that. But you see things like the Battle of the Golden Gate Bridge. So there was, and I'm trying to remember. I think that's the end of movie two,
Yeah.
and you kind of get to that bit, and it goes right. Recap over. Let's follow what we're going to do here, and for the rest of the issue, it really is establishing. There's some soldiers who are trying to protect and transport apes because there is and I'm going to go with the word cult. There's a cult, but kind of a quite aggressive group of humans who, for a number of years, have been trying to wipe out apes,
Mm.
chimpanzees, wherever they are, for the fear of this virus. But the reason why human soldiers are involved is they're technically immune to the simian flu. Now
Yeah.
they get it, but they don't die of it. So clever humans have realized we need these because we need to kind of figure out how we save ourselves, and probably our best chance is to look at what's different about their genetic makeup and why the virus isn't impacting them. And you get introduced to what I think will be our kind of characters. So you've got the characters from the Planet of the Apes movies, i.e., the apes, but also the humans. And going back to something we said when we were talking about the Wolverine Predator, I'm always a bit loath because we always have to have this human point of view, don't we? Like they always put this human latch on, and I don't always need that. But they establish them quite well. And over the course of the issue, you see the world as it is now and the characters they are now, but it shapes it to a degree by doing some flashbacks. So
Mm.
there's a flashback to a young girl losing her sister and probably of simian flu. But fast forward, and she is the soldier that is most protective of the apes, and she knows sign language because the sister that she lost was deaf. So she's actually talking to the apes in sign language, where a lot of the other soldiers, as much as they are aware that they're there to protect the apes, they're also probably more wary and more,
Mm.
oh, why you animals? Why are we doing this for animals?
Yeah.
And I think this could be good, is the honest truth. And I think I'll stay with it probably at least for the first 5 or 6 issues. I didn't quite get the excitement vibes when I started. Well, certainly not when I started the Star Wars stuff, nor the Alien stuff. So I'm not sure whether it is as impressive as those. But I feel like they're telling an interesting Planet of the Apes story that's set in between some of the more modern movies and some of the ones that come later. So yeah, I definitely consider checking it out. And the art's really nice. The art's by Dave Wachter, and I instantaneously recognised all of the ape characters from the movies, but also not at the expense of the human characters or the setups. And there's a few action scenes, but yeah, I would give this a solid sort of 6.5, 7 out of 10 as a starting issue, and it's certainly got me
Yeah.
interested enough to come back for a little bit more.
Yeah. It's one of those of Planet of the Apes as a franchise. I can take or leave. It's never been one that's made me go,
Well,
oh, it's
Except for the
amazing
first movie, surely, because the first movie is absolutely immense.
with Charlton Heston and
Oh yeah,
damn
yeah,
you dirty
yeah, yeah.
apes.
And you know, like of its time and oft overacted. And
But that's what makes it great is
sometimes,
the
yeah,
overacting.
and I'd say sometimes kind of scripted a little bit clunkier. And I was going to say if it was made again now, but of course people are making it now. And as I say, Tim Burton had a crack and horrible, horrible version of Planet of the Apes. But yeah, I do love the original movie, and in that first string of movies. Like the law of diminishing returns movie to movie, like clearly the budget was less and the interest was less and the quality
Yeah.
was less. But a lot of those early runs of them, they're still quite fun, almost
Mm.
in that cheesy look at a great movie that turned into something else. And I quite liked when they came back post Burton. I quite like what they did, but only quite like those. But it is a franchise I'm a big fan of.
Yeah, it's that sort of thing. If it's on, I'll watch it, but don't go out of my way to go, oh, I must watch Planet of the Apes again.
Well, as
But
you know, my general theory on the planet is animals are better than humans. So give me a movie where the animals take over and the humans are subservient or
subservient.
wiped out completely. Then yes, please. It's almost like bringing me a comic book about killing children. Like, you know.
So, is there anything else in your corner this week?
No, no. As I say, I felt well. A few more kind of little trips around in the DC New 52, but nothing sort of heavy to report. I wanted to kind of stick with the uh, jumping on things that we've talked about in solicits and actually coming back and I don't know, saying did it justify the excitement we initially had?
Yes. So, shall we start killing some kids?
I mean, it sounds perfectly fine and legal, doesn't it?
Or at least we should find something to kill the kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, I guess that's something to clarify here is we are not killing kids, and a large part of the premise this is something and beautiful Titan again is killing the children. What is killing the children?
Yes. So, as mentioned earlier, this is from the mind of James Tinian 4, or the fourth. We still haven't worked out how
I
he
would
has
imagine
that.
fourth, like most people tend to, don't they? Most people display it as a Roman numeral, but say it as second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. I want
Yes.
to meet James Tinian the 24th. See what his comic books are like.
um, so we will run through the issue beats for this first trade. Jump in if you've got something important to say,
Oh,
as always.
dude, you know you can't shut me up if I like it going.
So issue one, we open up with a sleepover, and they're telling horror stories. And one kid mentions that he saw a monster in the garden that one time. So they all go out to investigate, and all but one die.
And a lovely start, isn't it? Like we talk about kind of pulling you into a story, and sometimes you pull people into a story quickly by leaning into tropes that we know, and that sleepover or kids talking to each other about a horrible thing.
Mm.
You feel almost comfortable in your discomfort straight away, and then for that to be followed up by actual violence and death, and it is quite gory, isn't it? We see this sort of
Yes,
straight away. There's they don't shy away from drawing um split,
half-bodied children.
with their entrails spilling out of them. So it sets its tone early. We get the yes, this is a horror comic book, and no, we're not going to shy away from a bit of gore, not even if it's a child.
Yeah. So we find out that James was the child that was the only survivor, as he sees his friends tore apart by the monster. He's interviewed by the police. He says that he doesn't know what happened, and then a random girl.
But I was just going to pick up on that interview because I quite like the way they wrote it because he knows a monster did it. He saw it, but no one's going to believe him. So he kind of almost gives up on that story, doesn't it? He's
Yeah.
going, well, no, that didn't happen. And I don't know. I tried to put myself into the mind of if I was a kid, would I stick with the story? Would I be like, no, 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 it definitely happened? But yeah, I quite like that they add that layer of realism, and I think that layer of realism, as in, it makes him feel realer because you see he's making kind of cognitive thought decisions to go, no, they'll never buy this. And the whole sort of scene is very harrowing for me because that he's portrayed in the art in this park while he's been interviewed, because he's very upset, obviously, you know, he's seen a load of kids die, but I don't feel like he's drawn very sympathetically. What is happening to him is
Mm.
very sympathetic, but it's quite dark, isn't it? And the
Yeah.
interview room that he's in, it actually kind of pans out, so it's a very stark, bleak room. There's nothing in. There's a white table. There's like grey tiles, and I don't know. It just really interested me that it didn't go straight into almost poor bugger.
Yeah.
It felt like they're framing him as we know he didn't do it, but almost, or did he?
Yeah. Um, we then see him going into school where a bully blames him for killing the other kids and tries to make out that he was in love with one of the kids. He tells him to fuck off. Gets brought into the principal's office, and the principal says, "I'd have done worse. I'd have smacked him."
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love the principal.
I wanted that principal. I was like, when I was at school, why didn't I have that dude teaching me or as a headmaster? Instead, I got pricks who used to moan at me for smoking.
Whilst he is away from the school, we see a girl who looks a bit badass talking to a tiny girl saying, "I've got to go. I'm needed elsewhere." And then we see her arrive on the bus, talks to James, and the girl tells James that she knows there's a monster and she's here to kill it.
It's quite a I was going to say stunning. I think we'll pick up on the art quite a few things. I love the art through this, and I will mention that quite a few times. But the introduction of her, and spoilers, Erica, so that I don't have to keep saying her. The introduction of Erica. When I say stunning, I think it's just a really striking visual, and the character design is great. And when I say the character design is great, it's the little touches like the face mask that she has, and the fact that she's kind of wielding weapons. But it felt cool, but not in a forced cool.
Yeah.
You know, like how sometimes in action movies, you know, they come in and go ha ha ha, one
It's
liner,
got
one
you
liner,
better.
one liner. Yeah. Just straight away, you kind of go, right, I'm interested. I'm really interested in who this is, who their story is, and I think that I'm going to resonate. I think that when they are doing things with machetes, for example, as she's holding at one point, I sign me up for the ride. But yeah, a great
Mm.
character intro without having to do much with it. But I mean, having said that, you know, like that kind of I'm needed elsewhere. It's not quite so littlest hobo. It's
Yeah.
more uber cool, isn't it? It's like I've sorted the problem here, and I need to go somewhere else. And you know, like she's on the mobile, isn't it? I don't know why to do that. Like no one knows what a phone looks like. She's on the phone, so it kind of gives you those early doors teasers of going. Well, she's not just someone who roams from place to place to place. There's something
Yeah.
behind this. Yeah,
Um, as you said, the art is fucking stunning. And
yeah.
to me, it was Erica when she gets off the bus with the hoodie, coat, jacket, sort of
Covering her mouth. Yeah,
up to there,
yeah,
the hair over one eye, and then the
yeah,
one big eye. And I'm like, she's seen some shit.
yeah.
You get that
And
look of this is someone that has seen some shit.
and as silly as it is, it's almost like we all love a bit of kind of mystery, don't we? Like a lot of the time we all buy into whatever the story is, but you want a character with mystery and intrigue that you want to know more about. And yeah, tiny little things again, but having her mouth constantly covered early doors. You're almost going, why is her mouth always covered? Just little nuggets like that keep you kind of going, why? And oh, I want more. I mean, I felt like throughout this, and I know we're only part of the way through issue one, I felt like nearly every page felt like a cliffhanger for me. That I
Mm.
wanted to turn the next page. And sometimes it was quite lower end innocuous stuff, like just a conversation, but I was like, right, what's happening here? What's happening here? What's happening here? And it was the layers like this. So, like you say, when she comes off the bus with her mask covered, and she goes to, I'd say a billboard, but a notice board rather than a
Yeah.
billboard, and there's just loads of pictures of kids, and it just says the word missing, doesn't it? And just every not every panel, but every page had something that made me go, yes, please, why? Or yes, please, who? Or yes, please, what? You know, very, made me
Yeah.
question all the way through it.
Yeah. So that first one, that yeah, I'm not gonna do blow by blow for every panel, but that's pretty much the first issue there. And I read this yesterday. I got home from work and I was just like, I really need to have a shower because it was been hot. I was
So
like,
I felt dirty.
I'll just read one. I'll read the
Were
first
you
issue and
listening to
then
the
jump in the shower.
Filthy 15 again, Chris? Is that why you needed a shower? And
Yes.
that's a future spoiler for upcoming reaction videos when we do the Filthy 15 songs that were banned in the 80s. And yeah, it's made Chris feel very dirty at all times.
Yes. Um, but it
The
was
only
one
other
of those.
thing. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
As I'm saying, it was like usually I'm very good at if I go, I'm just going to read the one. I can do just one, put it down, do whatever I need to, and then come back to it. I couldn't with this. As soon as I finished that first issue, I was like, no, that can wait. I read more.
Well, remind me when we get to the end of issue 5. Remind me that, you know, where you said about I couldn't just do one, I had to do more. Because I'll talk about what happened to me at the end of issue 5. And the only other thing I was going to say about this first issue is, as we get to the end of it, you get a little bit more of James kind of recaps what happened, and you get the monster, don't you? The last
Yes.
panel is how they join the monster, and like for me, instantaneously, it was something I didn't like because I felt like it had spider-like qualities, and as every right thinking human being knows, spiders are evil and should be stopped. But without it being necessarily a spider, but it had kind of the legs, the arms, and a
Mm,
spidery sort of kind of face.
Mantis-y.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say at certain points for how much I will talk about the art as we go on. I think one of the motifs that I liked about the monster, and it's the same with what I like with doing the human characters, is it it never feels like the artist tries to overdo it.
Mm,
So we'll go sparingly on detail if that detail's not required. So there are certain sort of panels in the book where effectively they'll put some light going over someone's eyes so you don't see their eyes anymore. And here I felt like the monster that we were seeing could be drawn much more precise, but what we were seeing is his memory of it. So
yeah.
it would lose some of that detail, and instead you just see a hooning great monster with blood coming out of its mouth,
Yes.
and yeah, and a kid being ripped into. But yeah,
Yeah. So issue 2 opens up with Tommy, who we are introduced to, who is one or is the brother of a missing kid, and he runs Applebeans. Do love this, and they're using brands and slightly changing the
yeah,
name
yeah, yeah,
just enough.
just enough not to be sued. Yep.
Yeah. Um, said I still haven't noted as the girl at this point. We don't know Erica's name until issue
Yeah.
3, but Erica comes in, basically sits in the Applebee's and uses that as her. Who's going to use it as her base. She tells Tommy that she'll give him 50 quid, she'll order food, tip well, but I need to leave my shit here. And they use that to plan the hunt.
Yeah, Uber kind of confident as well, aren't you? So far, we've seen um, the girl who shall be Erica looking badass, and we've seen her interacting with someone at the bus couple of people at the bus depot. But I guess this was the first time that we've seen her around what would be considered somewhat of an age contemporary, although I feel like Tommy's a bit older. But
Mm.
even then, just that kind of absolute, I was gonna say brash. Brash is the wrong word, but that absolute confidence of going,
It's the balls.
I'm in charge here. Yeah, like I'm going to do this. And I think like just preemptively to this, that there's kind of an interesting fact layered in, and it's the first time we visually see it because Tommy's getting ready to go to work, isn't he? And he goes to his car and he says, "Oh, is anybody there?" Because he feels like someone's there, and you see a monster,
Yeah.
but it establishes that he doesn't see the monster. So as we find out, grown-ups don't see the monsters. But yeah, I thought it was
Mm.
a really good, rather than it being done by exposition of someone going, oh, adults don't see monsters. Sometimes it's about show me the story rather than
Yeah.
necessarily tell me the story.
Um, During this, turns out that they're having a conversation. Tommy turns on Erica because she basically tells him that his sister's dead.
Yeah.
He throws them out and they leave.
And I
Erica,
think you probably would as well, wouldn't you?
yeah,
I was thinking about this when I do it, and we talk about that character establishment thing, and Erica's already kind of showing out as I'm going to be the main character, and you go, well, what do you want that main character to be? And I think it's very tempting most of the time to go the squeaky clean baby face
yeah,
comedian, but I liked her more after this as much as like I think initially I just thought, oh, you could have delivered that message a bit better. But actually, you wouldn't, would you? So if that was a
no,
police officer, and the police officer like really kind of knew that had been a victim, or that the high likelihood is, actually the worst thing you could do is lie to their family, isn't it? So I think she
yeah.
was actually doing a kind thing, and
Uh,
I guess sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind.
yeah. I think the problem is because she's so cocksure, or she
Yeah,
comes across so cocksure that
yeah, she just delivers so
it
matter of
rubs
fact,
it.
doesn't she?
Yeah, it just
Yeah, yeah.
rubs him up the wrong way.
But also, like with him, you know, like as much as it's the right thing for him to know, yeah, you're probably not going, all right, then, you know, you are going to
Yeah,
react because, I mean, he doesn't want to believe it, does he? You know, he doesn't want to believe that this has happened. Obviously, for him,
yeah,
um, as we said on that notice board in the issue before, everything's saying missing and there's tons of pictures. And the honest truth is that probably the families of all of those kids deep down inside know that those kids aren't coming back, especially if they've been gone for anything longer than a week. But you're going to lie to yourself and say, until I see a body or until it's confirmed, I'm going to presume they're missing, still alive. We can find them.
yeah. Um, Obviously, as I said, Erica leaves with James. Tommy phones the sheriff's office, um, and also says that he's gonna kill her in a roundabout way. He said, "I
Yeah.
know I will deal with her," because he believes that she is killing the kids.
Yeah. I mean, that it's, we go back to tropes. It is a trope that is oft used, but sometimes not used. And I think weird when they don't use it of kids are going missing, and all of a sudden a stranger insinuates himself into it. They are aloof, brash, mysterious, um, dangerous, certainly giving off this air of danger. So yeah, why wouldn't people suddenly start to think, well, could it be this person? Is this person? And I was gonna say killing the children, making the children go missing, because that's what everyone
Yeah.
wants to think.
So Erica ends up at her motel. The police arrive before they open the door. You see that Erica is talking to a purple octopus plushie.
So you know how I said I'm loving what they're doing. I'm loving that kind of every page. I want to turn the page, and I'm liking what I'm seeing of the characters. And when I say like, I don't necessarily have to like every character, but I like what they're doing with it. This was the first point where it went from, like, let's say, a 10 to an 11 for me. Put in a purple octopus plushie that speaks, and as you go forward, you'll talk a little bit more about it. But I was like, yes, please, this is a series for me.
And as they open the door, we see the final panel of Erica with a golden spirit in front of her as they are going in, guns are blazing.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a horror one. We've already seen that there's monsters, but again, layer in that intrigue for me. And she clearly has a monster, a spirit trapped inside this octopus. So I'm going, tell me the story of how that happens, or tell me at a later date what happens next with that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's that thing of just a little bit of a nugget enough to go,
yeah.
right, this is better be getting paid off, and I want to know how.
Well, and like 2 issues in now. So when this come out, it was like 2019 when it come out, and I think there was there was some initial intrigue around it anyway because of like James Tynion the fourth doing it as a creator owned. I think he'd been doing some ancillary Batman stuff at the time. I don't think he'd started his Batman run.
I think
And
he's
it
doing
had
Joker at that point, wasn't he?
but I think he'd done some Batman. I think 'cause he did the Joker War in the Batman,
Yeah,
and so I think there was like a degree of intrigue and interest in from that. But it got up to speed very quickly, and because it was Boom and it was quite a low print run, by the time issue 2 come around, I think issue 1 had sold out. I think it was like either 5 or 7 times, so it was on their
mm.
like fifth, sixth, or seventh, or eighth printing. Because the buzz had started. And I think the same thing happened for issue 2, because already they'd sort of locked it in for a print run. And, like comics are generally about do you enjoy the story, etc., etc., etc. But there has always been that aftermarket of going, will my comic be worth more? So I think it had some sort of two-pronged of going, really interesting, really intriguing, really good to look at. And also, oh,
Is this going to make me some
the
dollar?
issues of this might be worth a few quid, yeah.
So we're going to issue 3, where we find out that Erica's name is Erica Slaughter,
Erica, yeah.
as she is in custody. Um, really cool interrogation with the sheriff, where she basically says, "I know what's happening here. I know they're dead." It
Yeah,
sort of turns the interrogation onto him.
yeah.
Um, he then agrees to let her go because he tells her that, or she tells him that she can fix this, but she can't explain how, what, or why. She tells him that he will receive a phone call that will also tell him to let her go. And
It's
as
it's quite compelling again, isn't it? The
yeah,
that that flip of position. So the policeman would be the authority figure, and you're like, oh, like what's happening here? Captured. How are you going to get out of this? But how very very quickly she's like, well, no, you're not in charge here. And for that to pay off so quickly, like, yeah, I loved it. I loved it. And as I said, layers on that the wider story. So what we've got is a monster in the town. Someone is potentially going to come in and kill them, but it's not just that, is it? You're going, oh, there's more to this. That means there are, like we had the mobile phone in the first issue. There are other people who know about this, and now it's suggesting that those other people hold more power than a local sheriff would, etc., etc.,
yeah.
etc. What's going on there?
We see that the sheriff tells one of his deputies to keep an eye on Erica and James. And that is pretty much it for issue 3 because a lot of it is taken up with the interrogation bit.
But again, it's like you're
This
right.
was
Like a lot of it is exposition, isn't it? But it's that
yeah,
important exposition that I said like in a previous issues, and when we talk about this art, that the show not necessarily tell, but also sometimes tell, because I don't want you to show me that stuff yet. I want to become intrigued by it, by you hinting at it, talking about it, and
Yeah.
building the wider universe that we're not going to see, so that I'm palpably excited about physically seeing that as well.
And it said at the end of this one, I was starting to go, right, I should get my Amazon up to find more of these.
Good, good, good. And that
But
is,
not,
that is
but
part
I
of it.
hadn't at that point. But I
But
was getting
that
close.
is telling, isn't it? Like you've already said, like you avoided a shower despite how much you needed one, you filthy boy, because you were liking issue 1 so much, and by issue 3, which, albeit because it's a 5 issue run in this, you're kind of past halfway of this volume, but you are interested enough to go, I'm past halfway. I think I'm going to want to read more of this
Yeah.
without having had to get to the end yet.
Yeah. It was definitely after issue 4 was where I popped it down for 2 seconds, went to Amazon and went, there it is, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, volume 5, volume 6 in my wish list and
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Bless you,
Because,
wish lists, for helping our memories as well.
yes. So, issue 4, the one that made me jump in full footed. Erica goes to Home Depot, not
And
Depot,
was it this bit that got you to jump fully in? Because I must admit,
again.
I thought, yeah, like going to a shop and buying axes and weaponry. I thought, yeah, Chris is going to love this bit.
It was the bit where the salesman's trying to sell her the safe, modern, with kill switch chainsaws.
Yeah,
No, no, I want I
yeah.
want the ones that will fuck shit up.
Can I have
I
the one
want them.
without? Yeah, yeah,
I want the old model that will just keep going and will tear through legs. Give me that, and at that point, I give them my money
yeah.
because, as we know, blades are my weapons of choice.
Well, and enjoy inherent weakness, aren't they? Like put a sword, an axe, a chainsaw in anything, and yeah, well, you just take the money straight out your wallet at that point, didn't you?
Yeah. So the sheriff gets a phone call from Erica's handler and basically says what she told him in the last issue, that she's going to make the problem go away. And off she and James go into the woods
Although you
to
do
go
have
hunting.
a little bit of I guess a wider establishment there, don't you? Around Tommy, you get to see Tommy in his family life, including an amazing rendition of naked, drunken parent in a bad way, and we still talk about sort of tropey bits, and I I think it's easy sometimes to be very critical of lazy tropey stuff, but
Mm,
this section felt like things that you would have seen in hundreds of movies set in America before, but it didn't feel lazy. It just felt like a good way to establish what his wider life is like, and of course, it also establishes him getting a gun, which
yeah.
is
Um,
relevant.
Call back to me and the good lady watched The Craft this week, as she wanted to watch it. She hasn't watched it in ages, and that trope is in there where
Yeah,
Nancy's there with the abusive stepdad
yeah.
thing, and yeah, it is something we've seen in lots of stuff before.
But usually, like, it happens a lot, I guess, is the
Yeah,
honest truth, isn't it? Like, it's, we talk about stereotypes, and everyone in the world goes, oh, yeah, don't use stereotypes. But actually, sometimes stereotypes exist for a reason,
yeah,
because, you know, we, we're all individuals, but sometimes we all have
similarities.
common traits, or we've gone through some commonality in our life. We might slightly experience it different, but this sort of thing is rife, and it will affect a lot of people. So it allows you to know that character a little bit more when you are dealing with a limited amount of pages. Like you probably weren't in this first trade ever going to get 3 issues of backstory of Tommy, so you need
The
to establish who he is and what his world is a bit quicker. So yeah, sometimes you lean into those tropes a bit more.
Yeah, and we see Tommy following Erica and James into the woods. So we go into issue 5, and we see that the officer that was meant to trail them rings in and says they're going off into the woods. He gets told to stand down. Erica tells us that if anything happens, James has to stay outside. Doesn't matter if he hears shit, he stays there.
Yeah.
He's a good watchdog. As Erica goes into the
Like
cave.
all kids should obey me.
Yes.
No back chat. Just do what I say, not what I do.
Goes in to go and take on the beast. Tommy, being Tommy, follows her in.
Glow Stick City as well, isn't it? It's a rave party waiting to happen.
Yep.
This scene.
And obviously, Erica can see the beast behind Tommy, but Tommy can't see shit.
Yep.
He is trying to give it the big, I've got the gun, you'll do as I say. And she's like, no, listen to me, do as I say, come towards me.
There's a brilliant bit of simplistic dialogue there where, as you say, like she's effectively kind of fighting the monsters and holding them off, but he can't see them, so obviously very confusing. But I guess can't break that kind of concept. And he goes, "You killed my sister," and she just replies with, "You fucking idiot." And it's just like feels so real to me. It's a line often used in my day-to-day life.
At this point, Tommy shoots his gun, but hits James by accident as he is scurrying into the tunnel at this point. Erica basically makes Tommy see the monster by stabbing him in the head with a bit of gold.
Yes.
He then sees what is there, and we see that he takes his escape with James after being shot, and we also see a little girl called Bane who is a survivor in the nest. He asks her if he's
Horrible moment though, isn't it? Where she says about like I watched the
my
monster
sister
eat
die.
my sister. Yeah.
Yeah. They make their way out as Erica fucks up the beast and gets a phone call from the handlers.
And you
Where-
get to see it, don't you? You get to, we said earlier about give me that exposition to build my intrigue, and then you get I think it's 3 or 4 panels, but you get to see like almost a long table, isn't it? And you get to
Yeah.
see like the kind of face masks that they're wearing. And I keep saying face masks, but they're not really, are they? They're just coverings, aren't they? They're
Bandanas.
coverings, bandanas, yeah, but covered over the mouth and things like that. And you're going, well, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Can't
With your
wait to find
glowy
out
eye.
who all of you are. Yeah, with your glowy eyes, and one of them has like a kind of gold mask on, and they've all got a cuddly toy in front of them,
Yeah.
in the same way as our girl has a weirdo octopus friend. I think there's a giraffe, and there's like a traditional bear and things, and you're going, oh, yep, sign me up, brilliant. There's more to come. I want more of this.
So we find out that this wasn't just a lone monster. This was a mother monster.
Yeah.
And it had kids. And there are more out there.
Yeah. So again, giving you that kind of, ooh,
Yeah.
you've established what's happening next, and then some.
Yeah. And Tommy gets out to the officer who was tracking them's car, gets with James and Brian as they are driving off to the hospital. As we end.
Quite interesting though, even at that end point, while she's having that conversation on the phone, like she's saying, no, like you got it wrong. You told me it was effectively less than it was, and as you say, then kind of establishes it was a mother, and now there's a load of hungry children out there. So we might have resolved this thing, but actually there's something worse around the corner.
So that is trade one, and
Yeah,
fuck me, this is so good. That, as I said, I have got them all on my wish list, and as soon as I have some, magic
money.
Amazon bucks,
More space. When more space bucks comes.
I will be jumping on the rest of these. This is now, other than Dark Rights, these are the next lot that I'm buying.
So I said to you, like, I often now, and I have a list, love a spreadsheet. But I try to rotate what I'm reading, so I tend to go one Marvel, one DC, one indie, and that indie being like any of the indie companies. And I tend to sort of go with a certain writer and then read a whole series, but I tend to do it in trades. So I go trade one, then I'd go to a Marvel thing. I was on holiday when I picked when I started to read this and it come up in my list, and I am quite disciplined because I never want to burn out on a particular series or lose track
Mm.
of what's going on with the others. I read the first trade, got to the end of issue 5, and um, bought 4 more trades straight away and read through them because I just went, I can't put this down. I love this, and I won't talk about anything else that happens or whether my love continues, but this was a great first trade for me and a great establishing part of a story. And that's what we want, isn't it? Like when we
Yeah,
talk about this, when we talk about like great stories or compelling stories and things like that, it's generally always going to come down to is did I really enjoy what I experienced and did it make me want more? Or in the case of where it is this is the whole story, am I satisfied at the end of it? Did I get my
yeah,
fill? And this had, I think I'm going to love everything. Oh, probably not everything. That's an exaggeration. But I feel like at this stage, I'm going to love most things that James Tinney the Fourth writes. I think he's got a really good flair for getting me interested. And obviously, not just me, because his stuff sells really well. But I keep coming back to that idea of mystery and intrigue. We are seeing stuff happen. Kids die, find monster, monster dies, or monster gets killed. Like,
yeah,
that could have been it for this. But I left it and went, okay, you did that, but you established that there are more monsters linked to this. We already know from right at the beginning as well that this isn't the first time it's ever happened because she was doing stuff like this at another one. You've
yeah,
given us a organization behind it. You've given us that story beat that only kids can see it and adults can't. Although it felt like the way it's being presented is that there are ways that
yeah,
adults can see it, and maybe that's how they get ingratiated into whatever this organization is. And that even when you get to the end of, let's say the next trade is hunting the kids, that you just then have another monster and another monster, but not even a cheap monster of the week one.
yeah,
You're establishing, you're going to establish why there are monsters and maybe why only kids can see them and all those sort of things. And I went, yes, in 5 issues you've told me effectively a complete first chapter, but a first chapter that hints to me that there are hundreds of more chapters and I will really enjoy them.
and that's without even mentioning what's the deal with the plushies.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah,
And sorry.
there is so many little bits in this that is just like, if this, I know in theory issue one is the pilot, but if this was a TV show and you had trade one was the first episode of something or the first couple of episodes of something, you're jumping in both feet with this.
Well, very. Well, it's funny, interesting that you say that. It wasn't long after. I think it was only a few issues in when Netflix took the option to adapt it into a TV show. So,
Mm-mm-mm.
and I believe, I think like kind of news is a smidge quiet on it, but I believe it is going to happen. I think it's one of those where they took the option and they really do want to do it. And you're spot on. I think there's a lot of similarities, isn't there? I say similarities, not necessarily to a specific TV show, but there's Buffy elements here. There's Stranger Things elements here. There's, I would say, even like series that don't necessarily
CSI
have,
or Bones or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
That sort of
and
crime.
Lost and things
Yeah.
like that. You know, like those kind of inbuilt intrigue s things. So yeah, this smacks to me of, my God, this is a TV show waiting to happen, and probably designed that way, and not necessarily to go design that way to sell it as TV rights, but putting that mindset in of going, how do people consume their entertainment now, and how do they want their stories, and I think like this is a large part of it.
Yeah. Is it still running? Isn't it? It's not finished yet.
Yeah, yeah, and not only that, but a bit of good news for you. There's also a spin-off series as well. When I say a spin-off series, I won't talk about the spin-off series because I don't want to give any spoilers. But at a certain point, there is this universe, let's say, or this world gets pushed out even further.
Hmm. So more money.
Yeah, but I mean, like, so one of the most compelling things for me, as I've said a few times, was the art. I think the
Hmm.
art in this is great, and but when I say great, we've talked before about certain sort of projects we've done, and we've gone, oh yeah, that's the one where I always go back to like a nice comparative point of Jim Lee. So Jim Lee draws eight superheroes on a panel. It's yeah, superhero poster. Um,
Yeah.
this isn't that kind of art. It sometimes it has nothing in the background.
Yeah.
Sometimes it has details in the background. Sometimes the color palette that's used is, well, actually, I'd say generally the color palette that is used is quite bleak and dull. Like
Hmm.
you don't see a lot of sunshiny days in here, do you?
No.
And sometimes the detail is taken down, but I always feel like it's with a conscious choice in mind, not because I couldn't be bothered to draw that or I don't have the talent to. It's like writers said, get this across, and I'm going to convey that really smartly in how I do the art. And the gore levels are there, and all of that feels believable to me. The design of the monsters and how they're portrayed in it, all very believable. I go back to Tommy going to see his. I keep going back to his naked dad who's drunk and all that sort of thing, and you go, yeah, this feels like how a movie scene of this would be done.
Yeah.
Like it feels very, very much in keeping. So the art is great, and yet one of the reasons why I want to talk about the art again is we both loved Nice House on the Lake, didn't we? Which was written by
Yes.
James Tinian. Different artists, but I felt there were a lot of similarities in style here.
Yeah.
Um,
That
the
that mix of perfect minimalism when needed
yeah,
and detail when needed, but
yeah,
everything fits its purpose and is there for a reason. As you say, it's not one of those of I just can't be asked or I'm just going to phone it in. When it's minimalist, it's like you say with the monsters, they're 10 lines
yeah,
and a bit of red,
yeah,
but it's all it needs to be.
yeah. And when there's not a background, it's because you don't need a background because you're supposed to be looking at the thing in the foreground.
Yeah,
When they want you to zero in on the face of the character because the effort's been put in to try and convey something with their facial expression, then don't draw distracting things in the background. Let me
yeah,
actually focus in, and yeah, I think done sort of so smartly, and even little bits like I said it about the light, and I think I forgot to mention earlier, but because I sort of said light, so you can't see their eyes, but with James quite a lot, light on the glasses,
yeah,
so that you can't see anything but that light over their glasses, and they did that a lot in some of the issues of Nice House on the Lake, and it's
mm,
great because the eyes tell a lot of stories, don't they? So when you actually obfuscate and obscure their eyes, it adds that layer of intrigue to go, okay, what's going on there? Like I'm seeing what the mouth is doing, but because I'm not seeing the eyes, is there more going on than
yeah,
I know yet? And of course, you can't talk about the art without talking about the design of Erica. You know, it's great. Like I want that bandana. I don't
Yeah.
know when I'm going to wear it and what I'm going to use it for, but I want it.
We could have done with it a couple of years ago.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yeah. You know, like, and I imagine the merch for that is out there. I imagine it does exist, and I would imagine that she's a character that a lot of people will cosplay at conventions and things like that,
Mm,
because to the most part, what she wears is what a normal girl of her age would wear. No, it's often white vest, black trousers, isn't it?
yeah,
But um, you get the, as I say, the bandana, as you said it a few times. The hair across the eyes. At certain points, you see sort of scars and tattoos in her hair, and it's just it's effortlessly cool.
yeah.
It hits cool without thinking someone sat here for 20 hours drawing 1,000 things until they figured out what was cool. They just drew it and they went, yeah, that's cool.
That's the one. Yeah,
Yeah.
and chainsaws.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it has a lot of chainsaws. You're right. What about the actual characters? So obviously we've got Erica with the air of mystery. We've got James, who is like kind of pulled into this and has seen some really harrowing things, but seems very intrigued about coming along for the ride. And I guess Tommy's our big one. How did you feel about the three of them, or each of them individually?
The Obviously Erica is just a badass and has
Yeah,
that.
interesting badass though. I felt not just a badass.
Yeah, but it has that sort of Eastwoody sort of, instantly cool because they're a badass, and you're automatically going, you're gonna be cool, you're gonna do some shit, and it's gonna be fun,
Yeah,
and I'm here for it. James, at first I thought, oh, he's gonna be a little whiny little bitch because of how he was in some parts of issue one, and then when he's then talking to Erica and he's all, but I want to help, it's too dangerous, but I want to help, he's just gonna be a whiny little bitch. But I think he's gonna be pivotal to humanizing Erica. I think in the further story, especially now that he's been shot, um, and you get that part of him sort of during it where the guilt that he's clearly getting because he was the one who took his mates down to the ravine and they got
yeah.
fucked up. He
And
can't
he'd been
live with
this the
that.
sole survivor, like the lone
Yeah,
survivor. You get that survival guilt, don't you?
yeah. Tommy is the weird one because you're like, clearly he started as a dick, but does him having been hit in the head with the golden light of joy, is
I
that
like
now
that as a
gonna
term.
turn him around to, he now can see everything, so he understands, or is he still going to be a dick? You're left with that sort of intrigue. But the thing is, he's justifiable for being a dick because his sister's dead.
He's got that everyman quality, hasn't he?
Yeah,
But that everyman quality when we can be knobheads. So he's not, and you feel like in this is that, as you say, a justifiable knobhead at certain points because of the loss of his sister. But like the scene in the cave where he's not believing what he's seeing, partially because he's not seeing everything, but
yeah,
that unwillingness to kind of open your mind to go, yeah, this isn't right, being so convinced that what he's convinced himself is right. And I think I saw a lot of the I say the bad parts of me. Bad parts make it sound like worse than I mean, but when I'm not being reasonable, or when
mm,
I'm refusing to accept that someone else might have a point of view, or when I'm at work, I guess is the way I describe that. Is that those elements in there, and that, but not Peter Parker every man.
yeah.
A flawed every man. And I think Erica's probably who we want to be. don't we all want a bit
Mm,
of air of mystery and to know more than everyone else in the room, but not in a prickish way, but in a I'm here to help, but I haven't got time to tell you all about it, and you don't want to hear about it even if you do, because one of
yeah,
the real reasons why I exist is that you don't have to deal with this stuff. And I think,
yeah,
she's the aspirational character to me, whilst being, as I say, quite aloof, quite offish, but who doesn't have that in the back of their head of going, oh yeah, wouldn't it be good to be the mysterious person who walks into the room and everyone goes, ooh, to, or yeah, you know that you are the hero, even though you probably got to do bad things that the others couldn't do to be that hero.
yeah. It's that I'll do the shit that you just wouldn't or can't.
Yeah, yeah. More often used in things like spy movies, isn't it? Like that, isn't it? Or like
Yeah,
um, that person who's sent in to do the thing that no one else will, the thing that uh, the reason why we can sleep safe in our beds at night is because people like that exist and they do the bad stuff that we wouldn't be able to do. James is the most interesting one for me, from the regard of where we go with James, because he's the weird kid, isn't he? Now
yeah,
he's the weird kid initially because who wouldn't be? He's just seen everyone he knows killed by monsters which don't exist. But I think in those first few issues, certainly seeing when they go back to school, and the bully I thought was done quite well as well. But
mm,
that he is that kid that had some friends but isn't popular with everyone, and maybe some of his friends were popular with other people. And I said earlier about stereotypes, and stereotypes are there for a reason. You could argue maybe in those first two issues, the establish of him is a bit stereotypy, but I felt like he was weird enough, and I keep using the word weird, but weird enough for me to still be interested in him. So when you had the police interrogation, or probably for him it was an interrogation interview, let's say,
yeah,
um, he was amazingly compelling because he was going through a big emotional range rather than just being sort of one note and generic. And so when he starts to want to insinuate him into the wider story and get him with Erica, like. I'm going for weird for the last time. I liked it because I could sympathize and empathize and understand kind of probably who he is,
mm,
but also there was enough weirdness there to make me think, or is he who we think he is?
yeah,
Is there more to him? Is there a darker side? And I'm not saying there is, but I felt like he wasn't one note, despite some of
yeah,
the things that they did to establish him, leaning into some of the more one note things. And I love a weird kid. I don't really love a weird kid. Like most movies that you watch, horror movies that have children in, they tend to lean to that strange child,
mm,
off-putting child, unsettling child, even when they're not the monster child, even when they're not the Shining twins,
mm,
like the Babadook. Right, an
yeah,
amazing movie, but an amazing movie because oh, like I hate that kid. He's horrible. He's a weird, horrible kid, and I wouldn't want to be around him. But also, I understand that he's a kid in a really tough situation, and that's probably what drives him to be weird. And I got a lot of that here from James.
yeah. So obviously, we know that you liked it because you went and bought the rest of the
Yeah,
series at the time straight
it's
away.
bloody marvelous.
You know, I clearly like it. I just don't have the funds to do what you did.
I was on holiday. I had a rush of blood to the head, Chris. I probably didn't have the money for it, but I was just like, right, we're not eating today. I'm buying comic books.
So I am gonna, throw this out there because I'm gonna guess I know the answer to it. Are we coming back to this once I get some more?
Hell yeah. I think as long as you're fine with it, I think we continue this. So every time you get a volume, we do it, and hopefully, when we get to the spin-off series, we can do a bit of that as well. Hopefully,
And I'll remortgage the house.
just sell something.
I've got 2 kidneys. I don't need two,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And to be honest, I work on the theory that most body parts, certainly internal ones, if you have two of them, having one of them's fine. So yeah, just keep selling parts of the body.
Seddon, bring me the bag of ice.
I mean, it wouldn't feel out of place in this, would it? Like, I mean, we've yet to kind of see it, but that's that Archer's Peak town. Very, very much the town you see in American TV shows and American movies. And I presume they're in American TV shows and American movies because there's a plethora of them. I presume they
Yeah.
actually do look like this. But, and it was you saying, like, bring the ice of, I can only imagine that you get motel, hotel rooms within this and within the wider story that are the sort of places where people get their kidneys removed from them.
Yes. So, if you have read the first trade, and no spoilers for anything further than trade one,
Yeah.
please.
And I wanna
Being
pat on
nice.
the back here. I've spoiled nothing here, other than letting you know that there is a spin off. But I don't think
Yeah.
that's a spoiler, and I even took the name out. But I'm really proud of myself of not going, oh yeah, when the
And
aliens
then,
land.
blah. Comments down there on what you thought of trade one. And
And if you haven't read Trade One, and you have, it's probably like reasonably priced on Amazon, isn't it? Like
I think
first
it's like
volumes
8 quid.
generally are. Then treat yourself. Spend £8. You'll like it. I think this is, sometimes when we talk about other things like bit superheroes or stuff that's in like the horror or the sci-fi genre,
Mm,
sometimes you're kind of framing it in your mind of going, who likes those genres would like this. I think this is something that most people who like kind of modern TV, modern movies,
yeah.
you're going to enjoy this, I think.
Yes. So yeah, I would definitely say jump on.
Yeah.
As always, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Do the YouTube things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And until next week,
Kill the children.
murder, murder children, and murder monsters.
Do you know what? Like, just this is a bit of a YouTube thing, and I know we're saying goodbye, but uh, I often hear people on videos talk about being demonetized, and often it's like with swears and stuff like that. I imagine if we were in the world of being monetized, the amount of times we said kill the children, murder the children, we'd be getting no money for this, would be. In fact, I think like we might actually be booted off the platform if someone didn't actually listen and get the context for why we're saying it.
Yes.
Kill the
So,
children.
as always, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.